Hand traps. What are hand traps? Are hand traps just beings of chaos that ruin the Yu-Gi-Oh format? No, that's not it. I like to see them as agents of order who keep in check the same oppressors who seem to wield them. That all being said, you cannot reach the heights of diamond or above without getting very acquainted with these cards, knowing when your opponent will use their hand traps and knowing when to use your hand traps, when to bait your hand traps, when to turn off the indicator on Master Duel to show that you have no response even though you've been holding a nibiru for the past 5 minutes like a greedy little goblin hoping to get maximum value from that one card. All this to a new player can seem very overwhelming, which is why I wanted to make this guide. This little guide will help guide you through Season 5 and beyond in Master Duel. Now some of the cards may change, but the idea stays the same. When you use a hand trap, the biggest indicator of whether or not you're going to get value is knowledge.
But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge.
Knowing what card will cripple your opponent the most. The last thing you want to do is Ash Blossom a danger card. Not a very wise choice. Not a very knowledgeable choice. This will be a multi-series video as I know there's a lot of hand traps to go over. Let's go through each of the cards and how to use them. Number 1, DD Crow. DD Crow is a level 1 monster that has the effect: discard this card to the graveyard and target one card in the opponent's graveyard. If no cards negate this effect, the targeted card is banished. Pretty simple, right? Now in today's meta, I'm sure you see Called by the Grave a lot, to counter hand traps in particular. This card is a cheaper, non-limited exile from the grave that doesn't negate effects. So a lot of the times you want to be using this ability preemptively before your opponent uses their effect. And this isn't all the cases, but some of the cases. This card won't counter cards like Eva, but will counter Eldritch the Golden Lord or any recycling abilities from working. The great thing about this card is it hits any card, not just a monster, like Called by the Grave does. So this is ideal if you're playing against a lot of Eldritch decks or any graveyard strategies like zombies. This card will do wonders against. Number 2, Maxi. Love it or hate it, this card is here to stay. Knowing when to Maxi is an art unto itself. I believe the best times to Maxi aren't utilized in the way they could be. Using it when your opponent just normal summoned a monster isn't usually the brightest idea, especially since you don't even know what their follow-up was. Unless you are 100% sure you can OTKO them through hand traps on their own, just don't do this. The first way of using Maxi is offensively. Set up a negate board, then Maxi your opponent's standby phase. This forces your opponent to contest the Maxi with hand traps, which you have negates on board to protect your Maxi. 90% of the time, your opponent will lose from this position regardless. Just think of the Maxi as the nail in the coffin. Using Maxi to stop an opponent's strategy is the best when they commit at least one or more cards to the board. So if they normal summon a monster, wait until they activate the effect of another monster to special summon. This forces them to have an answer or stop their turn in fear of losing in card advantage, or finally playing through the Maxi, which we all know isn't a good idea. So doing this forces them to have think of it as them having 2 garbage cards out now, and not only having 2 garbage cards out, now they have to make a decision: should I just link summon into something useful or XZ summon or whatever, which will give you another card. So either way, they're losing on card advantage. Number 3, Drollin Lockbird, a level 1 monster with 0 attack, 0 defense. This card can be sent to the graveyard when the opponent adds a card to their hand from the main deck. Upon sending this card to the graveyard, no player can add a card from the main deck to the hand. This card single-handedly locks down any deck that tries to abuse the search engine abilities like Drytron, Sky Strikers, and even Tri-Brigade. Do not sleep on this card. It's an underused hand trap. Number 4, Effect Veiler. How I wish this wasn't an ultra rare. This card, once sent from the hand to the graveyard, can target one monster on the opponent's side of the field. The effect of the targeted face-up monster are negated for the remainder of that turn. This effect can only be used on an opponent's turn and only on their main phase. But this card gained value with the addition of Baron de Fleur, Synchro Monster. A lot of decks are running Crystron Halibrax into Auroradon to get easy synchros out. This card single-handedly will stop that from happening. It's also a tuner and a spellcaster, which mean they could be used for your own Crystron Halibrax and Celine, the Queen of Master Magicians. Overall, a stellar card. Just wish it wasn't an ultra rare. Number 5, Nibiru, the Primal Being. This card explains itself. It's the single best card against combo-oriented decks like E-Heroes, Six Samurai, Drytron, Dinos, Tri-Brigade, Adamancipator. This card hits so many of the top decks that you would actually think that you'd see more of it. Using this card the right way is also important. Just make sure if you're playing against a combo deck and trying to get maximum value out of this card, that you do not let them to get an opportunity to get a negate on the board, like an Apollousa, or if you're playing against Adamancipator, you can't really afford that luxury as they run Kakukirimiru Guardian, which is their own negate that they can get from their Adamancipator card. Knowing your matchups is very important because even though Adamancipator you can't be greedy with, you might be able to be pretty greedy against Dinos as they don't really run that many negates, or if any negates at all. The only thing I will say is regardless of how you use this, make sure you have a way to deal with the follow-up token or it's going to be lights out for you anyway. Number 6, and the final one on this list for today, is Ash Blossom and Joy Springs. We move on to Ash Blossom as it is the most popular card on Master Duel. Ash Blossom can shut down a multitude of effects. Here are some things that Ash Blossom can prevent your opponent from doing. Add a card from a deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the graveyard. Because Ash Blossom shuts down special summons and adds from the deck, this card is so valuable. Ash Blossom can neutralize decks against Drytron, Eldritch, Tri-Brigade. It all depends if you hit the exact cards you need to hit with this card. Plus, Ash Blossom is also a tuner, making it useful to go into Crystron Halibrax. I think the versatility of Ash Blossom is what makes it one of the best hand traps in today's metagame. And let me know down in the comments if you agree. Also, let me know down in the comments what hand trap do you want to see next. Until next time, bye.